Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Cana, New York, in upstate New York. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and welcome to Makeover Monday. And Makeover Monday today is dedicated to me. Boom. Because I had a week of gluten indulgence. My whole head. If you're not listening on Zoom right now, or if you're listening not on Zoom members they will admit on the chat board, my head has turned into a massive piece of gluten. I think like a big glutinous mass. And I blame Bhakti Justin for not restricting my diet. So it happens.
What
And
happened?
I blame Domino's.
Philadelphia had one of those vegan Philadelphia cheesesteaks or something?
Don't ask. And then Haryashva, a liberated soul, Haryashva, made this like incredible vegan chicken salad, which is like, I think 99.8% gluten. But it was delicious. Anyway, I'm suffering because of it. I'm walking around like in slow motion. And
hey, today's a great day
gluten's
for
in my
you.
bloodstream. What?
Today's a great day for you.
Well, no, it's screwed up. And then I find out that today's not Ekadasi.
What do you mean it's not?
It's like ridiculous. I looked it up. I was all ready to do Nirjal.
Oh, hold it. I've been told. I'm under the firm impression that today is Nirjala Ekadasi.
They said it started at 4 a.m. Now, if you're in the... Yesterday.
No, it started at 6 a.m. yesterday, ends 4 a.m.
What's the day that
started
you
at
fast?
6 a.m., ends at 4 a.m., so it really started yesterday. It's very confusing.
Well, what's the fast day? It's probably today. It's got to be. That's what the calendar says. So today you observed that fast.
Oh, well, we broke it already. If we're having a tough time over here in upstate, this information comes slow through like mail carrier, a guy on a horse. I don't know. I think it's wrong. Anyway. So I'm going to start with myself. You know, something also happens to me, and it happens at the nighttime. Once that tamagun clicks in, I become possessed by some like demon. Some demon enters my mind and says, Raghunath, eat everything. Cover all your emotions, all your sadness, all your grief, all your pain. Replace all that pain. Medicate that pain with peanut butter or whatever else you can find. Just shove it in your mouth. Make the pain go away. So I deal with that. So me and Bhakti Justin, we are over our late night binging. We're over it this week. We're dedicating this week to clean living,
All right.
clean diet. Anybody with me? If you're with me, get on that message board. Good.
Well,
Sarah Koretsky, she's on the team.
Everybody's saying it's today. Today's the fast day.
We've been Googling it and we've been struggling, but I can fast. All I've had was this hot drink. Okay. So anyway, that's where I'm at today. I'm a little lamenting. My head's swollen.
You know what?
My neck is following my head.
Just let it go, Raghunath. We're just getting a little bog with time. You'll feel better.
You know,
That's
that's
what your
why.
medication is.
And, you know, and I'm going through all my stuff, and I'm going to take shelter in Sweet Baby Krishna.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
That's tonight?
Doing Sweet Baby Krishna tonight at 8:30. If you're a Patreon member, please join us. 8:30 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time. We're taking shelter in Krishna's pastimes.
Okay, but that's right when your gluten demon comes out.
The gluten demon.
At 8:30 p.m. Is that when he comes out?
It comes out a little later. I'm pretty good. I'm very good. In the morning, I'm like a saint. Anyway, we'll see. We're gonna make it happen this week. But we also want to mention we're getting tons of emails, right, Mara? Sweet baby Krishna. I mean, not sweet baby Krishna. Krishna miracles are coming in the mail, flooding in the boxes.
Well, when are we going to decide?
Envelopes coming in. Mara's carrying envelopes in from the post office. We're going to read it. We're going to read it Friday. We're going to pick our miracle. We have two, a number, first place and second place for next Friday. And you win these from what's their web address?
Tulsimala.com.
Tulsimala.com. Tulasimala.com. TULASI.com. They're giving away these beautiful, beautiful handcrafted Tulsi malas and bead bag, and then the second price, a necklace. So you got to write your Krishna miracle in. I got one from Krishnangi the other day. She said it wasn't really a Krishna miracle, but she goes, we've been on this kayak trip for days in some northern sea, wherever she lives in Finland. Mm-hmm. We don't know those seas' names, but she's kayaking around, and she stopped and she put on our podcast. And for some reason I was chanting Hare Krishna. And as soon as I chanted that Maha Mantra, a baby seal popped his head up.
That's a miracle right there.
That's a miracle. That's a miracle. Can you top that Krishna miracle? As I was talking, blah, 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 blah. I started chanting the Maha Mantra for the two babies that were born, for Vegan Trucker and King of Hearts baby. And we all started chanting. And then the baby seal popped his head up as if to listen to the Maha Mantra. We're going to call that a Krishna miracle.
Okay. It may not be a winner, but it
may not win. It may not win.
It may win for all we know.
It may win. Well, she preempted it with saying it may not be a full-on Krishna miracle, but it was sort of interesting. All right. I hope you all had a good Father's Day. We had a great interview yesterday with Kripa Moya. Me and the kids and Bhakti Justin went to Katiri's house, one of our Zoomers, and she has a house with a lake. We rode jet skis and pulled each other on tubes. And my 7-year-old in a full cast somehow beat the system and got this. You know what they make for cast now? These big rubber balloon-like legs that you tie over your leg, and you could go in the water. The kid was on a tube getting bounced.
Or maybe it floats better.
I think it would sink. The thing floats.
Okay.
Yeah, so he had a good beach day despite the broken leg. Worked out good.
That's good. Because once you got that thing, it's like beginning of June, you break your leg, you get this big cast. It's like, oh man, there goes the summer, right?
I know, especially if you live in upstate New York. Break your leg in the winter, kid. Yeah. All righty.
You ready to get into it?
I'm ready to dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why don't you tell the people where we are, Kaustubh?
Why don't you chant your mantras, and Mara, why don't you find out where we are? Because I looked at you didn't include it on the last, I know in general where we are, but there's no notes on that last.
We're all blaming each other. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why doesn't Mara do this? And Mara's like, well, why don't you make your own meatballs? Did we finish the chapter?
No, we're not even close to finishing the chapter.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastat prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, that's what we're doing, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshudunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus-like feet.
All right.
What episode are we on, Mara?
We are on 464.
464. Someone wrote into us. I'm forgetting who it was now, but they said we have to do something big for number 500, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should. I was talking to one of my old clients, and he was just like, "So you guys do a podcast?" We're like, "Yeah." He goes, "How often do you do it?" We're like, "We do it every day." He's like, "You do it every day? How often? Like you upload it every day?" "Yep, upload it every day." It's like, "When do you take a break?" So I'm like, "Rarely take a break." We forget what we're doing. This actually. He's like, "Well, my friend does a podcast like once a week, and it's like consuming." I was like, "Yeah, it's totally consuming." It's just,
I think Joe Rogan said the same thing when you said you did it every day. He's like, what?
yeah,
Every day?
I don't know.
Even he
Joe
doesn't
Rogan
do it.
has a pretty intense schedule himself.
But he does like I think 3 or 4 a week or something like that, right?
Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Okay. Kaustubha, tell us where we are.
Yeah, well, let's pull up our Srimad Bhagavatam. We're in chapter 12. I know that we're in Canto 3. I know that for sure.
We're in chapter 12, creation of the Kumars and the others.
And so, we've been on this topic for a little while now, but maybe we can kind of conclude it today. But it has to do with that Brahma, the creator, secondary creator, right? Like ultimately Vishnu's like, he's even creating Brahma. But
wow. Yeah, we're not even secondhand creators in the material. We're like, look at this beautiful piece of furniture I created. Yeah, right. Who created the tree?
Well, yeah. So even for Brahma, Vishnu created so much of the raw materials that he's using to create. But now we're on his level of creation, which is a secondary level of creation.
Secondhand gods.
Yeah, he's a secondhand god. And so he's got to populate. He's got to create the forms in which all the souls who have been kind of like resting in kind of a slumber, they've been in some kind of slumber, they're going to come out now with the opportunity to try to enjoy their senses, and all of that's been put together. There's the sense objects and the senses, and all that equipment was kind of provided to Brahma. Now he's responsible for creating the bodies, the species, and then, so that the souls can enter into them and laying everything out. But he's not going to send us into this, it's our own misguided, desires that have us like saying, okay, I want to go out on my own and try to enjoy the material world. I've lost it. I want to enjoy externally. I want to enjoy the illusion rather than, go within and uncover the happiness that is my true nature. Okay, the playground's being provided for that in the form of the material world. Brahma's putting it all together. But and he's going to put in not only the ways to find sensual pleasure in this world, but also, it's going to be programmed with that kind of stuff that brings us some pain in life. That's going to help us get back to reality so that we don't get completely lost for too long in this illusory realm.
Yep.
So that's going to be in there. But he's also wants to help us out. And so he's also sending in, part of his creation is he's sending in all of this culture. And that's what we're hearing about now. All the Vedic culture is coming out. And that's coming out in terms of social order. That's coming out in terms of, in other words, the different roles and responsibilities one can play socially. And it's all kind of clearly laid out. It's going to come out in the form of music. It's going to come out in the form of these sacred texts. So like, it's kind of like a big manual and everything like that, hey, even if you want to enjoy this world, you can do it in the right way. You can do it in a way that doesn't drag you straight down into the pit.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying you gorged out on gluten or something. I don't know what where you were going, what you're eating. But there are ways that you can enjoy eating where it doesn't drag you down, right? But it's hard for us to kind of like stay on that path, unless you're in. Like, for instance, if you would have went somewhere that was like all into health food and like that, then you would have naturally gone that way, But
what happens when you hang out with those Philly boys?
it's
the Philly boys.
Philly.
Blame it on everybody except your own personal responsibility.
So, but if you had spent the weekend in some kind of like resort that was all into like Ayurveda food and all that, you would have come back saying, I feel great. And I had a wonderful time and I really enjoyed the food, so all of this Vedic culture is a way, like, if you want to enjoy this world, you can, but you can do it in a way that you'll feel better and that will gradually uplift you. So now the thing is this, we're in such a messed up place, in our current, 21st century world that we're living in, that our minds are so bent, like we're so like skewed that that we're averse to hearing anyone kind of like try to lay out how we should live. We want total freedom. We don't want anything imposed on us, And so we're going to hear like a lot of culture, someone, and what I think the duty of yourself and myself today, Raghunath, is try to give some perspective on this, like try to understand the value, try to put into context of how someone might want to, 2 points. One is the value of all of this and where we go if we choose, like, I want to turn my back on it all. And then the other point is, we do live in a crazy world, and we can't just create this Vedic world out of scratch and live in it today. I've got this job, I've got this circumstance. We're all living in an upside-down world. How do you take from this? How do you draw from this in a practical, pragmatic way? That's actually going to help us feel better, live a better life, and ultimately move towards the goal of all of this culture, which has to do with self-realization. It has to do with ultimately with developing love of God, So why don't we just dig into it and see where we go? All right. I'm not so prepared.
Magic stuff here.
It's all magic stuff. So we got to pick a verse to start with because we've kind of been in the middle of this, but let's see. We got we started with that text 34, once upon a time, and it described that that Brahma created the 4 Vedas. Then and they're coming out, one out of this mouth, one out of that mouth, right? Because he's got 4 mouths. And then the different paraphernalia for performing sacrifice. That means, in other words, everything that you need, like a whole system was laid out to honor those who are providing everything that we have in this world, right? Mm-hmm. So all the paraphernalia for sacrifice. Then it said the principles of religiosity, of dharma, namely truth, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness. These principles are somehow, he invested them into the world and kind of highlighted them for us so that we can understand, hey, embrace these values and you'll be moving in a good positive direction. And then he creates the duties of the 4 social orders became manifest. So that's like, that deals with psychology, that according to your psychology, one can prescribe, like a certain role that you play in a certain social role that recognizes your strengths, recognizes your weaknesses, and it helps you develop by embracing those responsibilities. And we can talk about that more. And why don't we start there with text 36 now? That was 34 and 35. Why don't we read 36 through like 47, I think it is, or so, and that kind of wraps this up. Why don't we just read straight through it, and then we'll go back and comment on it.
So this is Vidura speaking.
Is it? Or is it Maitreya?
On 36, Vidura.
Oh, Vidura, he has a question. Okay, yeah.
Gotcha. O great sage, whose only wealth is penance, kindly explain to me how and with whose help Brahma established the Vedic knowledge which emanated from his mouth.
Okay.
Maitreya said, beginning from the front face, beginning the front of the face, gradually the 4 Vedas, the Rik, Yajur, and Sama, and Atharva became manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Thereafter, Vedic hymns, which had not been pronounced before, priestly rituals, the subject matters of the recitation, and the transcendental activities were all established one after another. 38. Okay. He also created the medical science, military art, musical art, and architectural science, all from the Vedas.
Yeah, we've read all this, right? That was the Upa Vedas.
Yeah. They all emanated one after another, beginning from the front of the face. Then he created the 5th Veda, the Puranas, and the histories from all of his mouths, since he could see all the past, present, and future. All the different.
In other words, how can you provide the histories when there's no history yet? So he could see into the future.
All different varieties of fire sacrifices. So these are the different ones. Sudashi, Uttaka, Purishi, Agni Stoma, Aptoryama, Atriratra, Vajapeya, and Gosava became manifested from the eastern mouth of Brahma. Education, charity, penance, and truth are said to be the 4 legs of Dharma, or religion. And to learn this, there are 4 orders of life with different classifications of castes according to vocation. Mm-hmm. Brahma created all these in a systematic order. Then the thread ceremony for the twice-born was inaugurated, as were the rules to be followed for at least 1 year after acceptance of the Vedas. Rules for observing complete abstinence from sex life, vocations in terms of Vedic injunctions, various professional duties in household life, and the method of maintaining a livelihood without anyone's cooperation by picking up rejected grains. What? What?
We'll go back.
I don't know if that's worth explaining or breezing over.
No, we can explain it, at least to some degree.
Okay, should I keep reading?
Yeah.
The 4 divisions of retired life are the 4 divisions of retired life. Well, I'm gonna start thinking about that.
These are 4 divisions of Vanaprastha.
Vanaprastha.
Yeah.
The Vaikhanasas, the Valakilas, the Odumbaras, and the Phanenapas. The 4 divisions of the this is like a Dr. Seuss book. The 4 divisions of the renounced order of life are the Kutichaks, the Bavodas, the Hamsas, and the Niskriyas.
So
All
are the
these were
sannyasis.
manifested from Brahma. The different stages of sannyas. The science of logical argument, the Vedic goals of life, and also law and order, moral codes, and the celebrated hymns, Bhubhavaha Sva, all became manifest from the mouths of Brahman.
That's not the television show, by the way, Law and Order.
Oh, very funny. Law and Order.
Law and Order came from
Everybody went, Law and Order. I was wondering.
like all the different laws and orders. Like
every episode. And then the Gayatri mantra, Bhubhavaha Swa, came from him. All became manifested from the mouth of Brahma. And the Pranava Omkara was manifested from his heart.
Oh, that's powerful. Huh? Om.
Yeah.
Okay.
Om. Thereafter, the art of literary expression, Ushnik, was generated from the hairs of the body of the Almighty Prajapati. Prajapati means he gives birth to. The principal Vedic hymn, the Gayatri, was generated from the skin, Tristup from the flesh, Anustup from the veins, and Jagati from the bones of the Lord of the living entities.
Do you know what all those are? Gayatri,
That's-
Tristup, Anustup.
I think they're
Jagati.
methods of singing.
It's actually the different meters.
Oh, the meters. They're
Yeah.
Vedic meters for chanting.
Like the one that we do
Like
commonly-
limericks. Like we do limericks. Like
Well,
there once was a girl from Calcutta. Whatever.
hold up there. Slow. Anustup is 32 syllables, I believe. That's kind of like what we commonly chant, like for a Bhagavad Gita verse or something like that.
Okay.
Right? That's
Okay.
16 right there. And so then the next 2 lines, and you got 32. And so each one of those is a different number of syllables. Gayatri is, a certain number. So like it's just a way of through which these hymns are going to be chanted.
Okay. Text 47.
46.
46. The art of writing, Pankti, became manifested from the bone marrow. And that of Brihati, another type of verse, was generated from the life breath of the Lord of the living entities. Brahma's soul was manifested as the touch tablets, his body as vowels.
Touch alphabets.
Touch alphabets.
Alphabets, not the tablets. The alphabet.
Can I have another one of those touch tablets?
Yeah.
It's like Flintstone vitamins.
I was thinking
Brahm-
tablet, like you touch like an iPad or something like that.
Oh, a tablet, yeah. Brahma's soul is manifested from a touch alphabet. His body as vowels. His senses as the sibilant alphabets. And his strength as the intermediate alphabets. And his sensual activities as the 7 notes of music.
Okay, so let's stop there.
Well,
So that-
Kaustubha, this is
Yes.
such like a sophisticated culture.
Yeah.
It's so sophisticated, and you think like we are working. We have this concept like we are already very sophisticated. We came here in the Mayflower and we set up camp and we colonized, and we didn't know anything. We had no culture whatsoever. We're just sort of like foraging, looking for food, trying to grow stuff, fighting off our enemies. Trying to kill people and establish
Well,
land.
they had
It's like a-
literature. They had. What are you talking about? They had music. They had literature. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about this is like the depth of this, the refinement of it
Oh,
is
okay.
so deep.
Yeah. For instance, right
And it was
here,
ancient. This wasn't 300 years ago. This
Yeah.
wasn't 700 years ago. This was thousands of years ago.
Well, so here you go. Like this text 47 that you just read, when it says Brahma's soul was manifested as the touch alphabets, his body as the vowels, his senses as the sibilant alphabets, his strength as the intermediate alphabets, and his sensual activities as the 7 notes of music. This is talking about Sanskrit, right? These are the Sanskrit, characters, vowels.
Yeah.
Well, all of the Sanskrit sounds, that's what's being broken down here.
We have a
language,
Sanskrit expert coming on the show Sunday.
That's what that's where I was going. Yeah, and so this is something that I really want to learn more about. I've read articles about it, but I've never kind of like something I should have done, and maybe this will be an impetus. But really learning what is so special about Sanskrit. Now you can read articles where they describe that this language is like, the sophistication of it is really something, because it's so tight, that it's like computer language. So like computer people, they look at this language, like computer experts and some people that build computers and program computers, and so they recognize this language is super valuable because other languages have all kind of weaknesses in them.
It's a tight language.
Yeah. So this is a very ancient language. So that's where, like, you could say, okay, the people that came on the Mayflower, like in one sense they did have culture. They had Shakespeare, and they had, the Bible, and they had, their own forms of music, and they had different things. But if you go back to this culture, it's tremendous what they actually had. And it's not so much a question of it hadn't developed, it's a question of we're losing it. It's trying to preserve it. So we heard about the creation of many things here. Some of them, and I mentioned earlier that, like, I think, you know what I'm reminded of, Raghunath?
What?
I was overhearing conversation between you and my guru.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did I say? Anything?
He was getting on
ridiculous?
Your case. He was getting on your case.
He was getting on my case.
Yeah, and
that was our relationship, me and him. I serve him, he gets on my case.
So
chopping up my ego.
And it was in the kitchen of that little house that we were staying at that time when we stayed. That was just, what was that, like 93 or something like that?
No,
earlier,
like 1990.
Okay, yeah, it was earlier. That's right. And
it was 89. It was 1989.
89. Okay. And so he was he was like in his friendly but cutting way, he was criticizing your music, right?
Yeah. Oh, loud and chaotic.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Like, that's loud and chaotic. Like he was on a cultural level, he was critiquing, let us say, your music. And you were arguing back, saying, well, come on, like, what about, like, there are artists like Picasso and so on, who's like art, is like, although in one sense it looks crude, it's like it's great art. You're giving some kind of argument like that, right? Do you remember what he said back to you?
I do remember something he told me about Picasso. He said Picasso wasn't just random; he was classically trained, and then he went off and did his own thing. Exactly. If you just go off and do your own thing crazy, you might sell it as a great piece of art because people are gullible. But first you have to learn. First you have to learn what the gold standard is, and then you can get creative from there.
Yeah, you kind of learn. You have to learn how to work.
Is that what you're
within
referring
the rules.
To?
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly what I was referring to.
Right.
I witnessed that conversation.
Remember that, and it was like 30 years ago.
Yeah. So in other words, so he was saying that, like, someone like Picasso, first you have to learn to master working within the rules of that culture, and then you can kind of extend them because you really know what you're doing. Otherwise, you get, and I always remember this kind of like just, our kind of like growing up on the Lower East Side in the East Village, which was such a like a quote unquote art neighborhood, but so much of the art was just like a joke, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Right. It's like anyone can consider themselves an artist. Just throw together.
You just paint in block letters on the wall your name, and you're a great street artist.
Yeah, literally garbage, right? Like literally garbage, And so I don't want to, start criticizing all different kind of artists and all that. But the point is, okay, who should we start with? But the point is that, an artist like Picasso, he was, there's more to it than just throwing stuff on the canvas. Not anyone can paint like Picasso. So here's like it's saying, here's a classic way of of writing. Here's a classic way of chanting. Here's a classic way of language. and then what to speak of. And we might have a resistance to that, right? Like, I don't want your rules and I want to be free and so on. What to speak of when you get to ideas like order in society, right? That we fit into a particular category. I don't want to be put in a box, right? I don't want someone to come in and categorize me in a particular way and so on. So is there value to this, or why was this considered valuable, and what in the world does this have to do with yoga, or spirituality or bhakti or love of God? I think that's what we need to address here. All right. So where should we start? Do you want to start with why don't we go ahead? And it's certainly something we've spoken about in the past, but why don't we start with Varnashram Dharma? Here was talking about 4 social roles. It also got into it got into Varna here, which means the social occupation that one plays, and it also got into ashrama, like it was giving it was speaking of some of the 4 divisions of the stages of life one goes through. All right, and it broke those down into like subcategories, right?
Sure. Let's get into that, like the 4 occupations.
Okay.
I'll jump in with Brahmana. So we always hear about
with Brahmana. Go ahead.
Jump right in the Brahmana ocean here.
The Brahmana.
The idea is that, like, why is there some ruling class and everybody is under them? This is so unfair. This kind of class system. The idea with Brahmana is there is no climbing to Brahmana externally. You have to climb to Brahmana internally. You don't try to accumulate stuff like, I'm going to get to this point of power where I can control everybody. That's not the thinking. The Brahmana has to learn to love poverty. That way the Brahmana cannot be purchased.
Right.
When a person cannot be purchased, that's when they have power. You know what I mean? So it's
that's
like
when
they're
they
not
can speak truth.
Yeah,
right?
they can just
The
be
power of truth.
straightforward. They can't be swayed. You want to bribe me? I'm not interested in your money. You know what I mean? So who would benefit from being in such a position? A judge, a lawyer, a teacher, a doctor,
A
priest. You want these people that can't be purchased, right? So many stories. The mafia purchases a judge, or they threaten the judge's life. Sorry, you're going to kill you. We're going to kill your, And
the Brahmana's like, go ahead, kill me. I'm eternal.
I'm eternal. You can kill my family. And so the Brahmana takes all of his
kill
intelligence.
My family.
Kill my family. I'm eternal.
Go ahead, kill my family.
They're
They're
eternal too. But the idea is, from that detachment, they develop a type of power where they're looked up to as leaders.
Right.
And so the kings would keep them as ministers because they want good, objective advice. And if you wanted to be number one in that culture, you'd have to have the intelligence. And I say the intelligence because it's a spiritual type of intelligence that nothing of this world will fulfill what you are. You just have to learn to deal with having nothing. And some people deal with having nothing in a joyful way. They relish poverty and simple living.
But in order to be like that, you have to have transcendental knowledge, right? That's the key to it. That my happiness isn't coming through anything external. My happiness is from internal. That's the kind of person we want to listen to.
Yeah.
There's a really now. It has to be addressed that this idea of the 4 social orders, and again, they were like this. This talks about the twice born, right? And actually, of the 4, 3 of them are twice born, and it talked about the thread ceremony, and 3 of them go through the thread ceremony. So there's the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas are, as Raghunath's describing, people that are, no one has pays them, they're not employed by anyone, and they're not getting a regular paycheck by anyone. They live on the donations of others. It means they have to be very detached materially. How are they detached materially? Again, because they're getting their happiness from within, because they're deeply spiritual. They can speak the truth. No one can stop them. And then you have the Kshatriyas, who are like the rulers. And the idea then was like the rulers were like powerful people, physically powerful, warriors that had a very strict code of dharma that they lived by. That involved, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. I'm willing to die to protect the innocent. That's my role in life. That's what I do. And and also part of what their dharma or their code was that they were very respectful, practically submissive to the Brahmanas, right? To those wise people, right?
Which
So-
is weird because you usually get some big guy that appears like a big bully,
Yeah.
very, yoked and strong. They can fight like crazy, fearless. They're like, I'm not scared of anybody. They're completely in total respect to the Brahmins.
Yeah, because
they-
yeah, it's a cultural thing because within that culture was deeply ingrained the faith that of the value of operating within the blessings of great souls and the fear of stepping outside of that range of their blessings, right? Like, I don't want to upset these wise holy people. That will bring inauspiciousness into my life.
I want to ask Frida Ananda Maharaj Sunday. Remind me to ask this question.
Okay.
Like, do we think like because you see this type of feudal system all over the world. You see it all over Western Europe. You see it in in Hawaii they have the kahunas and the
Kahunas.
I don't know. I
I've
can't
heard
remember
of
what they call the big kahunas. No, they have their mystics, their detached mystics. They have their
Sure.
warriors. Every culture has it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if Maharaj will tell us it's coming from India, or it just natural finds its place because culture you'll develop these
I think
intellectuals.
that's what he's going to
develop-
say. This is the
Well,
second, yeah. That there might be an influence, but naturally we fall into these categories. It's just four stages of or four categories of psychology.
We see people now too in our drunkenness of consumerism. People are like, I'm over it. I want one pair of shoes, two pairs of shoes. I don't want 1,000 pairs of shoes. I don't want this
They might have
big
that Brahminical
trophy.
inclination.
Yeah, I don't want this trophy kitchen. I don't want this extension on my house for my home theater. I want to live it simple. I'm building my house like our buddy Lev. Lev built a little tiny home. He's got a little tiny home on wheels he built, lived in that in the mountains.
Nice.
Could be my future home.
Yeah, I mean, that's not everybody wants to live in a little home out and secluded in the middle of nowhere. But it's someone
No.
that wants to go within that's probably doing that,
Sure.
That's a Brahminical inclination. So let's just quickly cover the other two. The third category was what's called Vaishya, which is like when you read about it in these books, it's commonly like the farmer, but it doesn't mean like anyone working on the farm. It means like the farm owner. So really it means the employer. Like the people that like have workers under them, the entrepreneur, the person that goes
entrepreneurs,
out, right, and makes money. These people, that they would have certain responsibilities and roles. Each one, again, according to their strengths and weaknesses, they're expected to follow the code. And if they do, actually they benefit and everyone benefits, And then the fourth category is called Shudra.
By the way, there's
Yeah.
some people who are just so good at business. It's just like what they do.
Yeah.
Fabio's a great business guy.
Is
I was
he?
talking to Fab. He was a regular other from Italy.
We'll see him
He's
in
like,
Italy, huh?
He's in Italy. He's got a cool shop and store, and they just sell stuff. And he goes, "Well, that's what I do. I'm good at it." He goes, "I go, what new ventures are you doing?" He goes, "I started a water company." I was like, "What's a water company?" He goes, "I sell water." I was like, "What? Well, is it like special, unique water from like Italian springs?" He goes, "No, it's just water. It's a can of water, and I sell it, and people love it.
That reminds me of that one person that you turned
It's
me
got
on
a cool can. It's got a cool can," he said.
You turned me on to that one person I was teaching him Bhagavad Gita who's like a billionaire. And I said, well, what do you do? And he just started telling me all these schemes that he does to make money. And it was just like, it was something like for every email that gets sent in Europe, I get like a penny. Like, how did you manage that one? It's like...
It's so ridiculous thing. I just
and,
figure out how to...
yeah, and the other one was like, he creates rangers, like I guess like groups of rangers that like guard the forest in Brazil.
Oh,
and
really?
then anyway, he just had all these schemes, right? And he just makes money from it. So it's right. It's like some people have that aptitude, that karma, that ability, that intelligence to make a lot of money. And so with that psychology, they recognize there's also a weakness there, which tends to be greed, right? I get into making money. I identify as myself as a money maker. I try to make more and compete with other people that are making more money.
Well, every social order has a particular dharma. So if you're a money maker, that's what you do. You can't give that up. That's what you do. You got to figure out what is the dharma for a money maker.
Yeah.
You got to figure out how to purify that money, or else what happens? Money contaminates you, right? If you're an artist, what happens with it? What should an artist do? You got to figure out how to purify your art, right? If you are a controller, a person with a massive brain and knows or a warrior, protect the vulnerable, just like this whole issue with the cops. Do you want to get rid of the cops? Yeah, everybody live in peace. Not, right? No, they have to learn how to be trained to be dharmic within that profession, because that's a real profession, protecting vulnerable people.
And so here you're saying you got to figure it out, but the point is, in this culture, it was figured out.
It was figured out. Everybody knew their dharma. Everybody knew the duties of a king, the duties of a worker, the duties of an employee, the duties of a laborer.
So just as you're saying, like, say I'm really good at making money, but I don't have the culture to go with it, then I begin to think my value, what people respect me for, what makes me special, is the amount of money that I make. And I need to make more than everybody else is making a lot if I want to be respected. In my mind, I get that idea. Now I'm harming people. I'm causing pain in the world. I'm harming the earth, because I feel the need to make more money. Whereas if the culture was there, you realize that your dharma, as a moneymaker, we can recognize your aptitude, your psychology, you're the good moneymaker. Now, but along with that comes the potential for greed. That's the weakness, right? So the remedy is that instilled within the code is to be charitable. And really that's where you're respected, right? It's not how much money you make. It has more to do with how much you give, that people are looking and saying, oh, that's a great person. They give so much. Look how well they take care of their workers.
Sure.
Right? Not just how many workers they have, how well do they care for them? Now what that's done is, if I understand everything right, I'm beginning to engage in what's called karma yoga. Whereas I'm not doing it for the fruits for myself. It all becomes a servant, and I see myself as a servant. And this is how culture works, that you create an environment that creates impressions in the mind. I'll be respected for giving, not just for making money, right? You instill that into the culture, and it allows one to learn better, learn what is my role and how will I advance in life. And it helps one to relate better, to relate to others. Now people love me rather than hate me, and it helps me communicate better. And so this Vedic culture, it was all aimed to assist us how to learn and how to relate and how to communicate towards the goal of self-realization, ultimately towards the goal of love of God. So you had the Brahmanas who were living this very simple life so that they could not be corrupted. They're deeply absorbed in study. They naturally feel renunciation. They have great faith, and they're communicating truth to society. And you have the rulers who are powerful people, physically powerful. They're down to fight, but
they're looking for a good fight.
They're looking for a good fight.
It's got to be a good fight.
But they want it to be a good fight, and within that code is to fight for any other reason other than to protect the innocent is a complete humiliation, right? That's encoded into that, and to respect those wise people. When they walk in, you hit the ground, and then you're very open to their advice about how you should engage your power, and then so just think about that. The people with no material motive are sitting there and telling the people with all the power what to do. That's a good design,
That's a nice design. You got something better than that? I'm open to hearing it. Yeah. So let's talk about the ones who are that appear like the most exploited. They're at the bottom. They're the most exploited. This is so unfair. Your stupid hierarchical culture. Break it all down. We're all the same. We're not all the same. Come on. We're the same spiritually. Everybody's completely different. I don't have a brain to work out numbers. Once people say it's tax time, I'm like, yeah, right? I can write songs. I can write lyrics. I can lead a retreat. I can do things like that, but we're not all the same. Even twins are different. We're very, very different, but we have a connection, and that's our spirit. And that's where our sameness comes from. You want to try to homogenize our bodies? Good luck with that. It's not going to work. He's smarter than me. She's more attractive than me. He's more talented than me. it's just the way the world works. There is no sameness when it comes to a body. There is no equality when it comes to a body. Equality comes on a more subtle level, and that's a spiritual level. So now this bottom rung of the ladder that appears to be exploited and probably has been exploited. Here's
Probably,
the
definitely
original.
has been. Yeah.
Here's the original. On cereal. Oh, she just gave me a bowl of mud for cereal.
Oh,
Thank
there
you,
you go.
dear. Thank you for that bowl of mud.
That's the desire to serve. Just
The
see.
desire to serve. Thank you. Bhakti Justin, get me a napkin. So why don't you explain about the Sudra or the servant, the servile?
Well, the thing is this, is everybody's a servant. Everybody's serving. Everybody is taking their abilities and working within the codes that recognize their strengths and weaknesses and serving society, serving one, serving God ultimately through this. But those three that we mentioned, they're all twice born, which means they all go through like the ritual of like accepting their responsibility. And these other three, they're all like, they're rare. They're the leaders of society. That's the idea. And everybody else is in that fourth category in one sense. It's a very broad category that involves all different kinds of trades and all different kind of aptitudes and all different kind of offerings to society, right? Like you may be a musician. In one sense, that's a Shudra. Because especially if like you're a musician, like say, like a musician like Bob Dylan may be more like a Brahmana. Like if you're communicating some kind of truth through your music, or ultimately deeply devotional music. Whereas like a musician like like say a wedding singer, that's a Shudra, right? That like they're providing a particular service to society.
Entertainment,
like, you need music for this event. I'm there to provide it for you. Okay.
Right.
So that's a musician, but you might be like actually a hard laborer, or anyone that's working in this world that's not the employer but the employed, right?
Sure.
And it's going to be the vast majority of people, but with built into the code is to embrace the idea of service, that I am a servant of society, right? And if my boss, like if my employer really has their head screwed on right, and is really caring about me, then naturally I should feel a sense of loyalty to them. And we see that in good businesses, right?
Sure.
We see that when there's businesses that really care about, even larger corporations, when they really invest in the welfare of their people naturally feel a sense of loyalty to that company, and they want to stay there. They feel protected, they feel respected, and they want to give. And so that therefore you create a culture of service, And so that's the way this whole thing is designed to work. Now, does a good thing get exploited? Yes. I was mentioning the other day how, Raghunath took a particular form of music, like hardcore punk rock, and used it to try to instill, dharmic values into it, Whereas other people took that exact same form of music and tried to, like, basically promote, like fascist, ideas.
Anything, nonsense,
anything
anarchy, fascism, violence.
And so what has happened, over the course of history in India, and it exists to this day, is that the system gets corrupt. The brilliance that's there, the goodness that gets lost. People claim positions of power or privileges, and this is the key. They claim it based on birth. Right? They say, I was born in a Brahmin family, therefore you should be listening to me. Well, you're not demonstrating the qualities of a Brahmana. Are you willing to live in poverty? Are you deeply absorbed in wisdom? No, I was born in this family and do what I say.
Big deal.
And now I want to bring up, here's a verse from Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is where it really starts to clear these things up. This is from the 7th canto, 11th chapter, text 35. This is Narada Muni speaking. You don't get a higher authority than Narada, right? He's like a person he's beyond the modes of material nature. You don't get a more traditional person. I mean, this is a person that lives the Vedic culture. So if you're embracing Vedic culture and pushing the caste system, well, you better listen to Narada, right? And respect him, right? He's not only a Brahmana, he's a sage, and he's the great sage,
He's going to lay down the gold standard of the caste system right now.
Well, here's what he says. He says, if one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above in the chapters describing their symptoms and their qualities, even if they have appeared in a different class, even if they took birth in a family that was different than the qualities that they demonstrate, then they should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification.
That's it.
Okay.
Whole,
So there you go.
whole caste system problem smashed.
So Raghunath solved it again.
That's it. Let's say that
Do
again.
you have to do everything, Raghunath?
Do we have to do everything here at Wisdom of the Sages? Do I have to go and have a meeting with Narendra Modi and get this all figured out?
You do. So again, if one shows the symptoms, it's the qualities that one has. It's not their birth, right? If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above, even if they have appeared in a different class, even if they were born in a family of a different class, they should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. It has to do with one's qualities, with one's behavior, right? That one fits into this role. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter which one you fit into. You want the one that's suited to your psychology because it will bring out the best in you. It's not like this is a competition. It's a way that everyone can serve, and certainly, well, I don't want to show respect to someone else. Why not? If that person actually earns that respect, not showing respect to that is a flaw, right? Now, demanding respect where it's not earned, that creates resentment, that creates, all sorts of tension and battle and so on. No question. But if we could instill, you see, this is what Srila Prabhupada was, a large part of what he was trying to do when he brought Bhakti-yogi to the West. Many times when he was, interviewed by different newspaper reporters or television reporters, they say, well, what are you doing here? You're an old man. You came here at the very end of your life and you're creating some kind of spiritual, movement. What's going on? What are you trying to accomplish? And he would say, I'm trying to create, the term that the phrase that he used was like, I'm trying to create first-class men. And what he meant by that, certainly it was women as well, because you can see he had so many female disciples and he was training them in the same way. Yeah. But his point was that he was trying to create a Brahminical culture because he knew that he's called our society a society without a head. There's no people that really possess wisdom that are leading. You need people that have embraced spiritual knowledge that can stand up and speak it and inspire people towards it so that we can save the world from this crazy course that it's on, right? Where we're eating up the earth, we're destroying everything, like it's like we're heading off a cliff and nobody can stop it because there's no wise person that can convince everyone, hey, we all need to live more simply. Hey, we'll be better off when we care about one another. Hey, we'll be better off when we're not concerned about having every new gadget and we can just learn to be happy living off the earth because everything's provided for us. Slow down, take a look. You need that Brahminical class of people that they're totally detached themselves. They have a very clear mind. They can speak very deeply and inspire others to embrace wisdom. So his point was he was trying to create that class of people because society is in desperate need of it. Right? That's culture. They need to give the culture. Right?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, right, Raghu.
You're beautiful.
Well, you're doing everything here, Raghu.
It's 8:57. I'm not doing anything.
Oh, well.
Mara,
Sped right through.
you have any wisdom for us today, Mara?
I have some takeaways. Yeah.
What do you got?
First, you have to master working within the rules before you can work outside of them.
Learn. Pablo Picasso said, "Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist."
Oh.
Laura Mark will put that on the board. Thank you,
That's
Laura.
a good one. A person has power when they
relevant.
can't be purchased.
Person has power when they can't be purchased. Boo! I like that. That's a T-shirt. I'd wear that shirt.
Right, finally. Got a T-shirt one. This one's a little long. A person who is detached and knows happiness comes from within can speak truth.
Not a T-shirt.
Maybe a little long for a T-shirt.
A little long
All
for a
right,
shirt.
I got another one. How much? It's how much you give, not how much you make.
Okay.
Yeah,
That could be
a good
That's a
bumper
mug.
sticker.
That's a mug.
All right. Embrace the service. I think that's a tattoo.
Yeah, there's a slogan.
That's
for you.
definitely. It might already be a tattoo. That might be. Somebody might have that tattoo listening to the show right now. That was pretty good.
And Laura Rubino is sharing maybe the best one of all. Make your own meatballs.
Make your own meat. Make your
We're
own.
done with that.
Thanks, everybody.
And Sweet Baby Krishna tonight at 8:30, and there's a Bhakti recovery group today at 1 o'clock.
Another big announcement. Tomorrow we're on at 5, right? Back to
Oh, yeah.
five.
We're
Back
on
to
at
5
5
a.m.
a.m. tomorrow. People, the Fivers have it. This is good news. Hey, if
Where are
you're
you going to do it from, Rogo? You're going to do it from
I don't
from
know.
home?
We're gonna figure it out. But I will say this: if you signed up for Italy but didn't put your down payment, Vivi says you got to put it down or you're going to lose your spot. So if you're seriously about doing it, contact Vivi today at what is it, Vivi? I can't remember the email. Wisdom of the Sages, WOTS Italy at gmail.com. We're going to see you in Italy. Watts, Italy. So we're going to see you in Tuscany with me and Kaustubha, and we're going to somehow drag Mara there.
All right.
That'll be great. And that's on. You can find out about that at wisdomofthesages.com, and you go to the events category. Whew. Me and Bobby Marchand have a Bhakti, restorative, and yin training going on in October. Check my website, Raghunath.yoga. Isn't it cool that you can get a .yoga account now? Yeah. That's how big yoga's become. You can get a .yoga. You don't see that with anything else. You don't see like .bricklayer, .jeweler. You don't see that. You see .yoga though. That's amazing.
No, you
Why
see
didn't jewelry or
.edu,
bricklaying
like
take
education.
Off? What?
There's different ones out there, Rogo.
.edu. Okay, there are, but .yoga's huge. Come on. Thanks for everybody who supports us on Patreon.com. It means a lot to us. And tons of back info. We got vaults of information on our Patreon account. You can just scroll through that. You don't even have to live another day of your life. You can live on our Patreon account just studying all the stuff that's there. That sounds fun. Thanks, everybody. Get outside today. It's a beautiful day. And spend some quality time with people that you love. And sing and dance and transcend this mind and this body. That's what I'm going to do right now.